Hi, this is day one for me for the 14-day isolation period. The reason for this is because, as you can probably hear in the background, one of my children had a temperature yesterday, so they were advised not to go to school. And because of the new quarantine rules, I now have to keep them off school for 14 days. Now, because I have children who are in two schools and in two different counties, I've now had to isolate my other child from school for 14 days as well. Now, the schools have actually been very supportive. I'm still awaiting homework packs from the schools. But one of the biggest questions that a lot of parents are going to have is, obviously it's before the Easter holidays, is how are we going to feed our children if the schools in the UK close? Well, one of the biggest problems at the moment is obviously panic buying. And because of panic buying, I've not been able to get certain foods from the shops, but it's mainly foods that I would tend to buy on a weekly or a monthly basis. Now, one thing I don't want to happen, and the same with my own children, is for people to rely on things like bread as a way of feeding their children. Now, myself, I don't know about any other parents out there. I get Healthy Start vouchers for any of my children who are under the age of 4. So I have one child who is legally entitled to Healthy Start vouchers still, which basically means that I get money to help me pay towards milk and vegetables. But again, the vegetables aren't an issue when going shopping. I can get plenty of fruit and veg. Milk is a bit of an issue because I can only use those vouchers to buy certain milks, such as baby milk, for example, Long Life and cows. Now, usually a loaf of bread in my house would probably last a day, with me having 3 children to feed. Usually there isn't 3, because one of my children is with their dad full time. And because I had him over the weekend, he's now having to stay with me. And if, for example, a family were to allow their children to have 2 slices of bread for toast in the morning for breakfast, and then say 2 again for dinner as sandwiches, then a loaf of bread will only last, say, an average family of 4 a day, 2 at a push. So at the moment, the average cost for a loaf of bread, for argument's sake, is, say, £1. So for a fiver, or for £7 a week, people could probably feed their children just bread, which isn't really something I would recommend you doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this blog based on the food that I currently have in the house. I haven't actually really brought anything over the last couple of days due to now being in isolation. And when I have purchased things, it's actually been from my local convenience store. It's not been from any major supermarkets such as Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's, not even Lidl or Aldi. It's actually been from my local Nissa store. So over the next 14 days, I'm going to blog and I'm going to say what I've actually fed my children. So at the moment, it's midday. They didn't have toast for breakfast. They actually had cereal. So they've requested jam on toast for dinner. Whereas usually at lunchtime, they wouldn't be given jam on toast at school. It would be a little bit more nutritionally valued. But we do have plenty of fruit in the house at the moment. So I have some apples and I have some oranges. They finished off the last banana yesterday. And I also have fruit sachets and fruit pots. So over the next 14 days, I will take photographs and blog about the food that my children eat during this time period to hopefully give other parents an idea of the types of foods that they could potentially be giving their little ones, especially if the isolation continues over the Easter holiday period and then after the Easter holiday period as well. Please feel free to like my page, and if you have any questions or queries or any advice, I'm more than happy to hear from you. So at the moment, like I said, I'm on day 1 of a 14-day isolation. not because my children have the coronavirus, but just as a precaution.